I appreciate your opinions on this, and there are definitely problems with crypto, but not being involved in the space and having such strong opinions about it really loses credibility for me because there's optimists that are trying to change the financial system, give power to the people, and it is evolving. And there's always going to be pessimists that stand on the outside that aren't involved. And it's like saying that government is corrupt and you shouldn't be involved instead of being a political activist and doing something about it. Some of the points that you've raised are being solved right now. For example, you talked about a Ponzi-nomic structure, and DeFi has actually moved to something called real yield, where they're not using tokens to be able to pay people, which is inflationary and eventually falls apart on itself. Crypto is evolving the same way that the stock market did. The stock market was unregulated, it was done in bucket shops, there was a lot of scammers. And then once it was figured out what these behaviors were, it became regulated, and it actually has been an amazing asset class and driven the economy. So if you are future oriented, you're seeing that this is actually moving to a place where it is going to be integrated into society. But if you're past oriented and looking at something that's evolving, it's easy to pick apart. One of the things I'm most excited about in crypto is not actually only the financial aspects, but there's a movement for Gov3 where you use the blockchain to be able to record votes that cannot be changed. And this is a type of democracy and freedom that people should have the power of. And as we've seen with issues in politics nowadays, this is something that could be world changing. And so to say that the technology doesn't matter is really looking at it from such a narrow lens that you're missing the broader impact that it's making.
Sure, it's hard to argue possibilities and say that philosophically something could never happen. But I think your stock market example is actually an important one to examine more closely because you speak as though the stock market just happened, just calmly evolved to a state of regulation. That isn't quite how the history went. What actually happened was in the 20s, the stock market was going wild, the roaring 20s. A bunch of people were making a ton of money. A lot of people weren't making money. A lot of people lost their shirts. It was highly unregulated. I mean, the standard book on this is Reminiscences of a Stock Operator, which is a great book everyone should read. Everyone in crypto or even looking at crypto should read this book.
It is the first book I read. It's a great book. He lost his
It's
life at the
awesome.
end, but
Yeah,
yeah, it is
the
awesome.
guy, he would have been into crypto. He would have been one of the degens. He would have said, "I'm a degen and proud of it." But what happened was they partied so hard they broke the economy. The Black Friday crash of 1929, which led into the Great Depression. The SEC was set up because the general public was at the gates with pitchforks and torches. There was a lot of stuff going on at that time. At one point, it was looking like private banking would not be allowed to exist in the US. The Glass-Steagall Act was actually put into place by Glass and Steagall, who were two great promoters of let people do what they want, economic freedom for business and banks and so on. That was their compromise, to separate investment banking from retail banking. The SEC was founded so that people would be allowed to do joint stock operating companies. It basically took an, a nation shattering disaster for people to realize that the regulation was needed. So we have an analogy in the recent crypto collapse where people partied so hard they broke all of crypto. The regulators are looking at this extremely closely and with an acerbic eye.